Hi, welcome to Money Convos, where we discuss personal finance and investment tips. We are committed to helping people create wealth and achieve financial freedom. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. All right, then, let's head into today's conversation. Welcome, everyone, to Money Convos. At Money Convos, we are committed to financial freedom, having these conversations that we have on Thursdays, book reviews every now and then personal finance coaching. So today's conversation is exciting. It's a follow-up from what we had last week, which was a recorded session. So just a heads up, this is a recorded session to our speakers. I have your permission to record these sessions. And a few moments ago, I shared with you the link to an introductory video on YouTube. I just figured out the podcasting bit of it, so that'll be coming soon. And very soon, later in the week, probably tomorrow, the first session, the 20s session, conquering the challenges of the 20s. For those who missed out, and I see a lot of names, I think in the audience, besides Danielle, everyone else missed that session. So those in their 20s, don't worry, the session was recorded and we'll put it up on YouTube and on a podcast near you or in your palm. So you wouldn't have missed out too much. But for today's conversation, conquering the challenges of your 30s, if you're in your 20s, well, it's a good enough time to have a heads up to know what's in store. Those of us who are getting very close to the 30s, we are coming to join David and Paulina and Mimi on that side. I don't think I'm too well qualified to speak on this. So it's more good for me, it's going to be more of questions, right? And we'll be hearing from our learned, experienced 30-year-olds and more. I don't want to ask David's age yet. Maybe he has crossed. Maybe he hasn't. David, have you crossed the 30 and beyond?
You for no, Masa.
Charlie, when I give you fast, you don't understand. Papa Penny, he's a big daddy. But yeah, you see, I've forgotten the tree saying. I was going to say something like, yes, Bofradi will be ADP, Penina in DP or something like that. You can feel free to correct me when it's your turn to speak. But yeah, anyway, that's been quite a long-winded introduction. So again, it's a recorded session and I'm glad everyone is here to join us. Please do feel free to raise your hand and join in on the conversation at any point so that you share your experience, ask any question. Let's figure out solutions to these challenges. So let's start with, I think we should start with the most experienced. And David, we're having a bit of a banter a few hours ago in anticipation for this conversation. And you said it's not that different from the 30s. So please explain, because I think it's different. So what do you think? Is it different from the 20s?
Well, I think it's different in a way that things become more real, right? When you're in your 20s, there are certain things you can avoid. You might be dating, maybe not married yet, but in your 30s, if you're dating now, you're expected to actually take that next step. And if you have taken that next step, then now, family members start looking at each other when they see you and the wife or the spouse coming, and there's no nya or the wife's stomach is not looking a bit bigger, maybe because there's something in there. Then they start whispering or they start even saying it to your face. Hey, Nandabena, my grandchild never ba, those kind of things. So things now become very, very real. For me, um, at that point, I remember there was one time I had lost my job, and man, I would go back home to my apartment and be like, Charlie, so where is my next meal going to come from? How am I going to pay my rent the next month? So I started picking up odd jobs left and right just to make sure, because now, no, I don't have the luxury of, oh, I live in daddy's home, daddy's paying all the bills. So, hey, even if I don't have a job, I'm okay. Things were very, very real, you know. Yeah, so at that point, that is when I think you finally transitioned into the real adulthood, where real responsibilities, where if you don't take care of certain things, people are looking at you sideways. I think we mentioned taking care of the parents, or even if you're a bit well to do now, the family members, the cousins, the long distance relatives who are going to school, who are doing this. Now they start looking to you as, oh, the uncle, the cousin, or whoever that has finished school and now he's a big time, whatever, doing his career now. No, everybody's looking at you for handouts. So it becomes very, very tough. When you're in your 20s, people look at you, they might want to get some handouts, but if they don't get it, it's fine. You're still young. But when you get into your 30s, you start becoming a family man, those kind of things, family woman, women too can be family people. Then the expectations become more real. It's like, we need it, you can't necessarily say no. So I'll start with that. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Things become very real. The expectations become very real. And it's interesting you touched on the black tax. I think we discussed yesterday on the Twitter space. It's very interesting conversation. Okay. So I get you. I think this is more explanation of what we were talking about on WhatsApp when you said it's just more heated, right? Thanks for that expose. So since we started from the top, let's go one step younger, then to Paulina, then we'll come to the youngest 30s on stage, Mimi. That is so. Paulina, please, what are your thoughts? Is the 30s different from the 20s, and what's the key difference?
Hi everyone, good evening. Elikem, how do you know whether I'm not younger than Mimi? How do you know?
Because I know Mimi's age, and then
Okay.
I think was it last week you told us when you got married.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in the
You are
week, so we say,
forgiving them.
2 + 2 is 4, -1, that's 3, quick maths.
Elikem, anyway. Okay, so personally, I think I settled more in my 30s, career-wise. I did my master's in my late 20s. So by my 30s, I had settled into what I wanted to do career-wise. I think it was last week or the week before that I was talking about the goal that I set for myself when it comes to getting into the career that I actually wanted to get into, not what my father wanted me to do. So my 30s found me doing what I wanted to do, the plan that I had. And I agree with David. At that point, there are more eyes on you. So everybody is looking at you, what you are doing, what you can do better, that kind of thing. So there is a lot more heat, there are lots of eyes watching you, a lot of expectations from a lot of places. That's the point where everybody's asking you, so what's your next move? Where do you work? What do you do? That kind of thing. So my 30s for me was a time of settlement. It was the time that I really got into my own, as in I found my feet in what I wanted to do and started actually doing it. And it was the time again for me when I was earning enough to take care of myself and to invest in ways that were significant. Previously, I was investing, but it was small money. So my investment was small. But by my 30s, I was buying real estate, as in land, um, um, and doing other things that um, you realize that, yeah, now it's real. Like the real thing, you are now living the life. Like really, you are now living the life. And for me, my 30s also, I lived with my siblings. So I rented a place and I was living with my siblings. So there were lots of people that I had to cater for in my 30s. Let me stop here. So as the conversation goes on, then we will take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you for that experience that you shared. And I like an interesting angle that you brought up, we've been talking a lot about the social part, or David started more about the social part. They feed into the financial part, right? But you touched on something that I really like, and I can kind of anticipate me being able to relate to it, right? Where you get to a certain level of income and you're like, okay, now you have some more wiggle room and you're able to do other investments, the real estate. So yeah, more details for that to follow. So yeah, that's interesting. Mimi, talk to us.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, I told you when I entered my 30s, I mean, I had expectations that my 20s should have been better. And so it was quite depressing. But if I should describe 30s, I'll use the word pressure. Pressure because, we all leave school and, Elikem, if you can kindly mute your mic. Thank you. We all leave school, probably they started with national service, some entry level job. You can't really tell the difference from the onset. By 30, you see the separation is beginning to happen. People are becoming heads of this. People are owning businesses. People are becoming CEOs. Someone who was sitting in your class is now a director, not of some small company, or some huge company. So you end up, you have a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of expectation that you place on yourself, that if this person I was sitting with in class is getting here, what am I doing? Also David spoke about pressure from people. And I mean, by the time you hit 30, if you don't have a stable job, you are not planning to get married or have kids, people begin to ask questions. Are you serious in life at all? Or maybe do begin in Africa, we begin to say maybe your what do you call it, will feel for how, or something of that sort. So there are expectations that by 30 you should be settling down, whatever that means societally. You should have a stable job. You should be climbing up the corporate ladder. You should have found someone decent to marry. You should be having kids. And once you don't fit this, you begin to feel the pressure. That's when they start asking you about marriage. They start asking you about kids. Even though some of your mates were getting married in your 20s, it wasn't really a big deal. But once you hit your 30s, then it's like you are not serious in life. So I think that in your 30s, there's a lot more pressure. Pressure you put on yourself, pressure other people place on you. You see your colleagues, friends you knew from school, who you were all eating the same food. Now you begin to see the disparities. Some are now directors at Goldman's, and you're still struggling. Even manager level may be a difficult thing. And the places, I think it's a place where depression can set in, because a lot of comparison happens in your 30s. So if you think 20s is difficult, you should see your 30s. And I'm sure as it goes on, it becomes even more. Also, as you grow, you're having kids and all that, it comes with a lot more responsibilities. Maybe in your 20s you had one, in your 30s you have another, or two or three more. All that comes with increasing cost. Your parents are growing older. They would expect some form of support, even if they don't ask. You would want to support in one way or the other. So you realize that yes, your income may be increasing, but so would your responsibilities be increasing. And it's at this point where you begin to think about housing, you begin to think about cars. You realize that your list of things that you want to achieve has grown, and the resources comparatively are little. So here you need a lot of planning and prioritization. And in your 30s too, you need a lot of focus, because as I mentioned, there's a lot of pressure.
Wonderful. You need a lot of focus because there's a lot of pressure. That's resounding, it's resounding from David through to Paulina and then Mimi. A lot of pressure in there. Charlie, right now as I'm here, towards the tail end of my 20s, I'm like, is there a way I can just pause time? Not just rush into the 30s, because you guys are not making it sound rosy.
Elikem,
David,
you'll be fine. Okay, you'll be fine. You're already on your career. You're very goal oriented. When it comes to money convos, there you are the share waga over there. You'll be just fine. You see, if let's say while you're in your tail end of your 20s, right? You maybe your grades weren't that good, so you don't have any good job. Would be you are like doing bits and pieces here. Why I want that you're not in a stable relationship. Would be that you see will turn into marriage. That's the time when you start looking at all your friends and where they are, and you're like, hey, Namikwa, what am I doing with my life? You see, but you are fine. Stop worrying too much, man. You'll be okay.
Amen.
David, I totally agree with you. I always say that the 20s is a very good opportunity to build a very strong foundation for, in fact, the rest of your life. So if you look at your life and you are building those foundations, I don't see what you are scared of. It would even be easier for you than the average person.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for those reassuring words. Yeah, making sure that it's good to know that the steps that we are putting in place are on the right path. All these conversations that we have, iron sharpening iron, and making sure that we are all keeping each other on our toes. That one we are not just sayers, but also doers. So it's good to hear from my senior brothers and sisters that this is the right path. And I hope everyone else who is joining us will just listen to some of these things, practice them, and we'll be fine when we get there. So we have Hudu Yaya.
Elika, let me add something. Sorry.
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah. So I it's one of the things I wanted to say. You see, building a good foundation is so important. When you have set the right foundation in place in your 20s, so everything that you need to do, and sometimes the foundation does not necessarily mean that you have to get all your ducks in a row, not necessarily, but you should have learned all the lessons that you need to learn. You should have for example, if it was an education you needed to have and you could afford it, like your 20s is the time to do it. So by the time you get into your 30s, you are on a path that you already carved, if not even physically in your mind's eye. So now you're able to just chart the path and walk the path. So it will work out. Like, don't worry at all, it will work out. And you shouldn't worry about pausing. In fact, you can't pause the time. That's needed. Go out that you get to. So just know that you have the right foundation. Like, based on our interactions in the last few months, you know that you have the right foundations, and you will not fail. Whatever happens, you succeed. So don't worry.
Amen and amen again. Thank you. Can't pause the time. Okay, great. So we have Hudu Yaya, who would like to share some thoughts. But before he does, just shout outs to Ikea. I see you in the audience. Looking forward to engaging again. So, Hudu, please. I see you are, I see you are new to Clubhouse. Welcome to Clubhouse. We don't have our official greeter on here. She's not doing well, so she's not feeling well. So a word of prayer to her whenever you get a chance. That's Jennifer. But yeah, welcome, and I hope you do enjoy your time on Clubhouse, get to interact and meet a lot of people. So thank you for joining us as one of your first engagements. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, and good evening to everybody. And like you mentioned, I got the app just yesterday night, and I was just going through the app, and I saw this conversation, and the topic for the discussion caught my attention, and I decided to participate. Well, I think that looking at, hello.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, we
Go
can hear you,
ahead.
buddy.
We can hear you. Oh, and sorry,
Okay.
just to insert this, this is a recorded session. So just a reminder, if you don't mind, this will be recorded and shared. So I hope you don't mind.
Okay, that's okay.
Wonderful. Great. Please continue.
Sharing my views on the topic. I think that at the age of 30, one ought to have a lot of thoughts that you need to have for yourself. Because at that particular age, it is believed that you should be heading to a point where you would do something for yourself. For instance, either you have a business, you get married and start to have kids, you need to have a lot of things at that particular stage in life. But me, for instance, I'm 29 years old. I'm not married. I don't have a job, but I have a little business that I'm running. And I think that it's not a worry to me because I know that we all have our purpose in this life. God has created everybody with a purpose and He has a plan for everybody. So the fact that you getting to um 30 or even 35 without a job, without a family and other stuff, it shouldn't be anything that we should be worried about. The only thing is that we need to have a plan for ourselves. Because when you look at our purpose in life, there are so many things that we can achieve for ourselves. Not only on the aspect of economic aspect, but there are other things that one can do for yourself in order to be successful in life. So just to add to the conversation, I would want to say that look, life is something that one need to take very serious. And you see, when you consider the opinions of others to run your life, you will definitely fail. You need to have a plan. Even though others' opinions might push you positively, but it shouldn't make you very like you shouldn't base your life on what people says about you. You should have a purpose for yourself so that at the end of the day, whether it is good, it is for you, it is bad, it is for you. I always say that the decisions we take in life have two effects. It is either you have success throughout of it or you fail, but you should be ready to embrace whatever the outcomes might be. So I want to thank you guys for this opportunity, and I want to listen to you keenly so that I can pick certain things and then add to my life. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, wonderful. And thank you too for chipping in to share your perspective. I like how you've said you're also like me, well, you are close to the gifts of the 30s, and yeah, I like your perspective on how each person has a unique purpose. Don't worry, don't fuss about comparing with other people, and it doesn't end there. I like how you don't end there. You have a plan and you work at it. It's a great submission that you've given us. Thank you so much, Hudu. Okay, so anyone else who wants to join in the conversation, remember it's a recorded session and we'll be sharing it on YouTube and on a podcast in your palm very soon. So feel free to chip in. But so to my speakers, let's get into some specific or some unique challenges of the 30s. We've spoken broad strokes about them. So at this point, let's say people have put their pens and papers out and they are ready to take notes. Let's take, for each problem, you can suggest a solution alongside it. So let's see, let me shuffle it a bit. Okay, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. Mimi, would you like to take one peculiar challenge and suggest a solution?
Okay, so for me in my 30s, because of the work I do, I realized one huge problem is when people retire and don't have any housing arrangements and tend to use their retirement benefits to build a house, which is very unadvisable. So I told myself that right now that I'm young and I have time, this is the best time to start thinking about these things. Get some land somewhere. If you're lucky to have one for free, handed down from your parents, perfect. Try and build small, little by little, not like a dream house, but a house like something that you can live in with your family. So I mean, if you are able to manage things and you go on retirement and are not able to build anything in addition, at least you have some place to sleep and then you can comfortably manage your retirement savings well. But however, if you don't have that, that's when you'll be forced to go and build, because unfortunately, especially if you are living in Accra today, you go and ask for rental prices is 1,000. The next time is 1,005. Not too advantageous for a retiree. So that's something I told myself in my 30s to start looking, at the challenges for the next. What are the common challenges that people are facing in their 40s, in their 50s, and start working on them in my 30s, so that by the time I get there, it wouldn't be a challenge that I face. So that is one thing. And one challenge has also been children, honestly. Kids are expensive, if you know anything about having them. Initially you work, you bring your money home, you chop it yourself. If you are a bit, you don't like to spend on yourself too much, like myself, you save a lot, and it feels good. But then these kids come and they threaten your whole saving agenda. I mean, you want to give them the very best, some out of pressure, because I mentioned that there's a lot of comparison going on around this time. Friends are taking their kids for swimming lessons, football lessons, this, that, and then you are not doing anything. You don't look too serious in life. So there's a lot of comparison. But even when you are even within your own lane, you want to give your children the best. You want to take them to the best school you can afford, give them the best life, and all that costs money. And so you tend to see that you used to have maybe it's very easy saving, and all of a sudden, you who used to be so disciplined is now faced with so many needs. And I realized recently that for me, my children's needs have become a weakness. I could be uptight with my budget, but I see some shoe and I think that, oh, this will meet a need of my child, then that becomes my weakness. So if you don't take your time and you are not intentional, this time where you end up spending a lot, because of kids. And so that for me, it has been one major challenge. I also did my master's in my 30s, which cost me an arm and a leg. For me, the most expensive, probably, let's say, investment I've had to make, and so that also took a toll on my finances. But the great thing about your 30s is that you still have time. So if you are able to, readjust and re-strategize early enough, you'll be able to, get back on track. Unlike when you're getting closer, to the older ages, one big mistake can, throw you off balance. So I think that's the advantage of the 30s. Yes, you have a lot of responsibilities, you're an adult, but if you make mistakes, there's a tendency that you can, work on it and it may not affect you too much. But if you wait too much, till you're older, then the implications become much bigger. And as David said, I think you become more serious about life, right? I mean, in my 20s, I think I was just walking about spiritless. I mean, I just did, you know. But as I grow up, I begin to ask myself, what am I here on earth for? You begin to ask yourself deeper questions, do a lot of soul searching to find yourself, find your purpose, find your calling. And so you are um, not just aimlessly walking around. And I think that sometimes, even in finding your calling, you begin to place a lot of pressure on yourself, especially when you see people within your industry, or wherever, whatever you think your purpose is, doing so good, you forget to find out about the process they went through, and it becomes pressure for you to feel like you are not doing well enough. So in discovering your purpose, it's very important for you to know that it's a process, and you should be committed to whatever process. You shouldn't give up. It requires a lot of um commitment. And so for me, that's something that I'm learning in my 30s. I'm discovering more. And I think reflection and self-awareness is very, very important in your 30s. So I'll say that is it. Maritally, as these financial pressures come up, you are discovering yourself, I think it places a lot of stress on your marriage. And so you should have a strong foundation, a lot of communication. I'm sure this is the time where, you know, a lot of people, maybe you thought you were marrying Prince Charming and it was going to be a happily ever after, and you realize that it's just full of challenges. Money, 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 especially challenges. So it's very important. Communication is very important. Planning is very important. Sit down and talk about where it is that you want to go. So that's what I would add to this discussion.
Wonderful, wonderful. You've touched on quite a few challenges and very good solutions to consider. Thank you for sharing those. So just a brief recap. You talked about how you observe that some people wait for retirement before they start thinking about their homes and end up spending most of their, or if not all of their retirement funds. So 30s is a good, so the solution is 30s is a good time to start planning towards it. Get land, start doing something small. And then there's also as you were talking about, I was thinking about, there's also a mortgage. If you're going to buy, you know, in this now with improved credit, you can actually do a mortgage, you know, and I think Desmond is having a room next Monday or Tuesday, or it says Twitter space on next Monday or Tuesday, where he'll be talking about mortgage. So anyone thinking about that and these options, I encourage you to get on Twitter and look up Desmond and hear about that next week. Okay, another thing you also mentioned was children. Okay. All right, children and their expenses. You know, this issue is very dear to me. So yeah, masters, expensive, and then the strain of all these pressures on the marriage. I like the solutions that you suggested. The planning and communication, you know, and all these things should have really started in the courtship time, you know, in the 20s, you know, so you should have laid that foundation of planning and communicating. But like you said, it's not too late, right? It's not too late. You can still make up for it in the 30s. Great, great, great. Thank you so much, Mimi, for sharing those. Paulina, how about you? Any more challenges you want to share or talk about and suggest solutions, or you want to harp on some more? Because you could add some more perspective to something, even if it's something Mimi has said.
For me, I think the 30s also, one of the things that I see or I've experienced is the whole thing about the black tax. So for me, it's not from my parents, really, but my siblings. So you kind of feel you have some obligation towards them. So our last born, for example, I took him through school for his tertiary education. Now, when you have obligations like that, it's easy to fall off the wagon when it comes to savings and investments and things like that. But one of the things I told myself and I tell myself consistently is that I need to be able to make something of my own life so that my siblings will not turn around one day and come and tell me that, oh, one bobra, you know. So it's the advice I give to every one of my TAs when they get a job. I tell them it's good to take care of your family once you have a job now, but it is very, very important that you set something aside for yourself. So I encourage them to do a direct debit. If the money is not in your hand, you can't give it to anybody, even when they ask. So for me, in my 30s, the black tax became real. Maybe it became also very real because my parents funded the second year of my master's program. And because of that, I felt obliged to take care of my siblings to make up for that. My parents will not ask. They are okay because even after retirement, they have their own shops and things like that. So they really will not ask. But I felt that I needed to take some of the burden off them to take care of by taking care of my siblings. I mean, so that has been it for me. Um, again, like I said at the beginning, in my 30s, I have been very intentional about real estate. So buying land in places that people don't think you need to buy land in, because one of the things I learned even before my 20s is that real estate is a real investment. So in my 30s, I have tried to buy land. There are places that it's not that I am necessarily going to build. No. My husband and I, we have land that we know we are going to farm on because he wants to go into farming. There are places in Accra that we have land that we are not thinking of building now. There's a place we are building, yes, but there are places that we are not thinking of building now, but we still have the land. And let me also say that when you're buying land, you have to be very careful, because I remember buying land which has been taken from me and I can't get back that land. So when you're buying land, especially in Accra, you need to be careful about that. What else? Yes, children. They're huge investment. they are they are that's item on your budget that in fact you can't ever budget for, really, because like Mimi said, you see something and all of a sudden you forget that you have a tight budget that you are working with, and you think that, oh, they will need this, so you buy it. The thing also is that children go so fast, so you buy the thing for them today, tomorrow it doesn't fit anymore. So when you are buying things for children, you need to watch out for those two. Like, buy things that are nice but not so expensive, because children outgrow things quickly. And then let me reiterate what Mimi said about finances with your spouse. It's so important that you communicate, because things can get tight. Like, one moment you are all in love and everything, but then next moment you realize that the finances are stretched to the tightest limit, and it can create a lot of tension in the home. So you need to talk about it. And for me, one of the things I have learned to do is to talk about it, not when tensions are high, but wait until everybody is well settled in, and not too wound up on the issue to be able to talk about it. I think there was something else. And then school fees. So today, I don't know if if you guys have seen it, but 63K school fees is trending on Facebook. That's the other thing that you have to think about. My children are not yet in school, but I want to be able to think that if I have to give them the 63K kind of education, I need to be able to do that. So it means that you work extra hard, you save, you invest towards the future of your children. I think that one of the things that I know I have to do, which I have not done, is to open or to start educational policy for my children. I have investment accounts for them, but not educational policies, because sometimes I think that we should get somebody to come and talk to us about insurance all over again, because I really don't get a lot of the time what it is that they are saying. But my point basically is that we need to be able to save and invest towards the education of our children, because for me, in this whole debate about expensive schools and inexpensive schools and everything, I ask myself, what do I want for my children? I want them to be able to compete wherever they go. And so if people are paying 63K for their children's education a term, I won't ask, or I won't say that it's too much. The question I'll ask is, how can I also afford to give my children the Roman Rage kind of education, the GIS kind of education, and so forth and so on? So rather than just say that, oh, they are being silly by paying that much school fees, I will ask, what can I do to ensure that I can give my children, if I'm in Ghana at that time, the kind of education that will make them be able to hold their own wherever they go. I will end it here. If anything comes to mind, I'll come back. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, Paulina. Personally, I would say that all that you said before, this last point, they are good, but they even fall under this last point. And I see it all the time. My target for when I will start having children, as far as efforts are concerned, things can happen. Yes, I get that things can happen. But as far as it's been through my effort, is when my wife and I can afford to take our children to a school like GIS. Then we can do it. So I'm really impressed and I agree with you on this. It's not that it's too expensive. No. How can I afford it? That is why that is the goal and that's the target. So I'm with you on that. Cheers to that. Mimi, you wanted to chip in on this or on something Paulina said?
I just wanted to chip in on school fees. It's September, and if you're a parent, you are probably sweating by now if you didn't plan. And when I used to do my service in the bank, there were certain peak periods where you see a lot of people taking loans. And if I remember rightly, it was September and December. September, because the school fees time, not just school fees, you have to buy new uniforms and all those expenses that come with taking your kids to school. And then January, because you have to pay school fees, you have to pay rent. Christmas has come, you've chopped all your money, you are zero. And so it gets you thinking. I mean, once you have a kid, you know that they would go to school. You have even 9 months before the kid appears. It even takes a while. Most people would probably wait a year or so. I mean, if you have options to take your kid to school. So during all that time, in fact, before you have the kids, it's very important that you start looking around for the kind of schools you would want to take your kid to. Ask for their school fees, ask for transportation, any related cost. So recently I was looking for a school for my kid. So I drew a schedule. I had a number of schools I was looking at. I drew a schedule, put all the costs as down in the whatever for from kindergarten to year 10, and did my analysis as to which one is more costly, which one makes sense, because they were all running the same curriculum, which is the IB, which is the same curriculum some of these expensive schools run, but this is for a cheaper a cheaper amount. So I did all these schedules. Know that every year, I mean, if prices don't increase, this is how much we should we should have for the year to pay the school fees. Now that you earn money what monthly for most of us, or you earn money quarterly, or however you earn money. Let me talk about the salaried worker. Divide this money by 12 and start setting it aside, like the way you pay for electricity on a monthly basis. Have an account, set that money aside on a monthly basis in that account, so that school fees is not a shock, it's not an emergency, it's something that you knew was coming. And if you're deliberate, you can have enough money to pay all the school fees. Because I even hear GIS, there's some tree that kids are sent to when their kids cannot pay, when their children cannot pay. So know the kind of education you want to have for your kids. Don't wait till they come, start asking around, ask about all the related costs. I have a friend who has done that well enough, and she has even done dollar investment, and that's what she wants her child to go to association, which is expensive. I wonder how she'll do it, but that is her plan, and she's willing to let it happen. And she started investing even before she got married. And I'm sure the last time I spoke to her, she said she had acquired quite a good amount of money. So as I'm saying, having kids is not like once you have them, some of the expenses that will come, and school fees is not an emergency expense. So let's not wait for it to come, because it can be very stressful having to cough out 20,000, 5,000, 6,000 all of a sudden to go and pay, school fees. But if we plan towards it, it will be very easy, and it won't be at the detriment of other goals like our retirement, a housing fund or something. You go and take and pay school fees. Where would you live? So that's just something I wanted to add to Paulina's statement.
Maybe please share that spreadsheet with me.
So
Please
I'll
share
let
the spreadsheet with me. Thank you very much.
I'll let Elikem add his touch.
All right.
Sure. Let it come through, and then we'll add the money convos touch to it, so that if you have to share it to other people, they'll get it looking very nice and palatable. Okay, so I really like how Mimi added on to this very practical steps. The most profound thing in what you said is school fees is not an emergency. School fees is not an emergency. You have a child, or you
Can please tweet it or tweet it.
Charlie, in bold. In bold, school fees is not an emergency. Charlie, it's you have children, you know it's coming up. I really like the steps Mimi brought out. Very practical. 1 year school fees divided by 12, put that one aside every month. By the time the first term is over, you have enough for the second term. And you are still building on. It's just a rolling account, Charlie. Mimi, you are wise. Very practical steps, right? But and there's this concept, even beyond just school fees, of debt versus saving towards an expense. You could get up one day and say, you know what, I want to buy something. I want to buy a big TV. I want to buy something. And you go and borrow consumer loan or whatever. You go and borrow to finance it. And then after that, now you start paying for it as an interest rate. Or you could have planned ahead of time, or when you get a desire, hold on to your desire. Sit then, also hold on to your desire a little, plan for it. Say, I'll take a few months, I'll save for it, keep the money invested. Let us even gain some small coins to come and add to buy that thing for you, you know. So it's a really good approach. Thank you very much, Mimi, for bringing that in. So next, just a reminder, we are having a conversation about conquering the challenges of our 30s. We've talked about the pressure, we've talked about family, we've talked about black tax, we've talked about stress on the marriage, and you need communication and planning in there. We've talked about quite a few things. Don't worry if you joined us too late. This is a recorded session. It will be on YouTube and on a podcast near you very soon. So stay tuned for that. That's coming up. This is a second in a series. We are doing till 50s. So we did 20s last year, last week. This week is 30s. Next week we are doing 40s. Then we'll do 50s. I like the caption for that. Mimi's caption for that. 50s. Is it too late? So yeah, David. That's probably you already know it's not too late. So David and his squad. Maybe David can invite more of his squad. 50s, is it too late? Those entering that arena soon, in a few years' time. Anyway, so yeah, this is what we are discussing. Feel free to raise your hand, join in on the conversation, ask a question. Key thing here is we want to conquer the challenges. So we talk about the challenges and we talk about the solutions. We are hearing from David next. And after that, it's not going to be all doom and gloom. I'll come back to my speakers and anyone in the audience and I'll ask, what are the opportunities? We've heard of a few opportunities in there, like there's still time to make up for your mistakes. There's real estate investment opportunities. Your salary has grown to a point where you have some wiggle room, so you can take on serious investments. Let's talk. We'll talk about some of those opportunities that the 30s bring, so that it's not all doom and gloom before we wrap up. So, David, Papano, do you have any more specific, unique challenges that you would like to share and give us solutions to?
So for me, I just want to add to all the good stuff that Paulina and Mimi and you guys have already talked about. But I think when you're in your 30s, especially like early 30s, for most men, you don't get married till maybe mid 30s. You know, some get married earlier, but most of them get married, early to mid 30s. So for me, it's a time for you to work on yourself, right? Better yourself, focus on yourself, strategize, prioritize, and then be very deliberate about your actions. Okay. If we're talking about, at this point you have a career, you're dating, whatever, If you're the kind that likes to play around, this is the time where you got to bring it in. If you're dating 3, 4, 5 people, now cut it down to maybe 2 people that you are trying to see which one is going to be the Mrs. in your life, or which one is going to be the Mister in your life. You know, just trying to study them. When it comes to your friend is saying, housing over here, where you live, right? Let's say you live in Accra, or no, let me make examples here. Over here, where you live, the surrounding areas is where your kids get to go to school. So I cannot live in Accra and my kids are going to school in Takrady, or vice versa. So you have to think, where do I want to live? You have to think about, where do I want to live? How is it going to impact the schools that my kids can go to? Okay, because from primary school all the way to high school, your kids can only go to school in specific locations where you live, surrounding areas. You got to think about that. Marriage. Me, when I was in that stage, the first thing I did when I decided that, you know what, I'm ready to get married, is this might sound weird, but I did actually start a marriage fund where I was making specific investment into a fund, just so that when I'm ready to get married, I can sell that and use it to go finance the the marriage. Okay, so work on yourself, make yourself the best version of yourself that you can, so that when all these other things start to happen, the marriage, the kids, the all of that, you'll be in a better position to handle those things. When my when I got married, my wife, the second she got pregnant, I was already looking at, okay, I need to start a friend saying a college fund. I have a 2.5-year-old who already has a college fund, and then a separate investment account where I'm just putting, a dollar here, a dollar there into it. Birthdays, you put something into it for them. By the time they're 18, you say, hey, here's your stuff. Go and you need to start your own life somewhere. So these other things, the marriage, the kids, and all that stuff, they are bound to happen. So when I say be very very deliberate about your actions, make sure you're putting all the right things in place so that once they happen, you are very, very well prepared. If you think you want to get married, for me, I was going to marriage seminars. Unless you don't talk about marriage, I'm sitting there all years trying to listen. What do I need to do? What should I not do? Those kind of things. Making yourself prepared to deal with all these things that life has to offer. So, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Whenever you listen to David, you hear two major themes: a family man and an investor. Family man and an investor. And then when he's chatting with Mimi there, you know that then two Cheso people are talking. But anyway, yes. So yeah, that's
Masa, we are not too slow. We are not too slow.
sorry,
Elegant.
frugal.
We
My
are
bad.
frugal.
Too
Okay.
frugal.
There's a
Forgive
big
you.
difference. There's a big difference. And like Mimi and Paulina said, once you have kids, sometimes it's like, unless the kids don't need something, then you forget, say, you cry, you needed something that you had to buy. And then what you needed now becomes secondary matter. Oh, kid needs shoes, then you go and buy it. But you need shoes. Oh, this one I can wear for maybe 2 more years before I buy a new one. All those things happen. So just, put things in place so that when it happens, you are very prepared for it. Gracias.
Wonderful, wonderful. Your shoe there, you can wait 2 more years, but the children, it has to happen ASAP. Good one there, good one there. Paulina, you wanted to say something, then Mimi also chip in.
Yes. I think that one of the things that we should normalize is helping our friends to setting up our friends' children. So this is what I do. When a friend of mine has a child, the way when they do the christening or the child dedication, like in my church they do, people give towards the child. What I try to do is to set up an investment account for the child. It's not a lot of money. Sometimes it's 200 CDs, something like that. But I tell the parents that I'm not setting it up. I will look for all the alternatives for you. So I say, oh, you can open it here, open it there, for the child. in a year or two, I'll come and ask you what has happened to that investment fund. So they don't misuse that money, because a lot of times what happens is that they used to buy the small chops, so because the small the small chops that people eat at those events, you have to defray the cost somehow. But what I try to do is I tell them, I am sowing a seed into the life of this child. This is where I want it to go, as in an investment fund. I will come and ask what has happened to it. I think we should normalize that rather than just go to the outdooring, have fun, and then come and give to them and come back home and live life as business as usual. We need to change some of these things. So let's normalize that. If we do that for our friends will wake up. They'll get a wake up call and start doing same for other friends. And what that means is that all of us will be helping ourselves to help our children as they grow up. Thank you.
Charlie, I think that after you pass through the 30s, there, you become very wise, because it's not small wisdom you people are dropping for us today. I agree with you. We have to normalize this. In fact, I'm starting a list of things that we have to normalize. This is going straight to the top. I think it's very important. Paulina, was it you who shared something on our WhatsApp group earlier this week about grandparents giving a baby or an unborn child at a baby shower?
David.
Oh, it was David.
David.
Okay, wonderful. David. And you and David.
You see, these things, I love what Paulina was saying. Okay? I tell people all the time, say, when you have a christening or a naming or whatever you call it, the expenses are yours, but the gifts that come in are for the baby. I tell people it's so simple. Use that to start the kids, investment account, college savings, or whatever it is, and then every birthdays and things, just add a little bit in there. Because the toys they will get, the uncles and aunties and everybody will give them, but use that to start it. This thing that Paulina just said, I did some with a friend of mine where I was like, yo, for your kid, instead of me giving you guys cash, can you open an investment account and I'll give them, I think I said 2 shares of Apple stock. Till today, it's been like the kid is 3 years and they still haven't redeemed their 3 shares of Apple stock. So every day I see them, Master, where be account now? What's the account number? So I can put the shares in it. Till today, they are not doing it. So these are certain things that, like I was saying, you make deliberate decisions to put the kid on a path for success. Not that it's the only thing that but it's something that helps. But people don't want to take advantage of it. I don't know. Thank you.
Amazing. These are things that people need to hear about, normalize, and let them take advantage of. Just thinking about these shares and what they could have done in 2020. Mamma mia. Great. Mimi, please join in.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was advised the same. So my first son got a decent amount of money, and that's why he used to start his long-term fund. The second one, unfortunately, was born during COVID, so nothing much came, but I decided to push him on my own. Anyway, the reason
Pandemic
why,
babies have suffered, pa.
Charlie, it's not fair, cry.
At all.
Anyway, the reason why I even decided to speak. So, around this time or during this time, we are all looking for the best education for our kids, at all cost. I just want to say that let's also be careful about that. Get a good education for your kids, but that is not all that matters. Get a good education for your kids, but that is not all that matters. You see, the world is getting to a place where we need more holistic human beings, not just people who are book smart, but the rest of the places no yanse be anyhow. You need people who are financially, educated, you need people who are spiritually sound, you need people who are emotionally. So let's not, I think we focus too much on education, and the world, where the world is moving, we require, more than that. So rather than, spend so much, sometimes school fees that we cannot afford, but because your friend is doing it, you feel the pressure. Look at your budget, look at what you can afford, and get the best, education. But not just education, support them by helping them acquire different skills, monetary skills. If there's a business, they can do something. You are involved in entrepreneurship, there's something your kids can do, you can pay them something small just for them to be, picking up a skill. If you can get them more involved in, if you are the spiritual kind, more involved in serving at church, and all those things help. We've moved from that, just go to a good school exit. No, sometimes you have a good job, but you are suffering from emotional issues because you've not learned how to manage, and that sometimes relationship problems, you don't know how to relate with people, and that becomes a problem. So let's look beyond just giving them a good education. And an expensive education does not necessarily mean a good education. And a good education for each child may be different, because there are some schools that may be good for a particular child, but for another child may be harmful. So we should have all these things at the back of your mind. Parenting requires a lot of intention, a lot of observation, and a great deal of work to be able to get, the human being, and grace, of course, to be able to get a human being to be in a better, position tomorrow. So let's not just fixate too much on school
Preach.
fees, because a lot of us do that. You go and do GIS. By the time you finish, maybe your income cannot afford that. By the time you finish, you don't have a house, your retirement funds have been squandered, you can't support your kids. From GIS to, unfortunately, I have to use this Legon, you know, when it should have been Harvard, or you should have continued the trend, you know. So just look at your pocket. If you can afford let me use a cornerstone, is that a big kakra, but on a lower budget, do the cornerstone. Take a little money, take your kids outside Ghana during the holidays. If you have money, let them fly, expose them, teach them other things, and you realize that they may match up to the GIS squad anyway. So that's just the bit I wanted to add.
Interesting perspective. It's a holistic thing, not just only the school, paying top for the school. Parenting is difficult, and it requires a lot of holistic effort. Thank you for that that perspective and that reminder to everyone. Paulina, I saw your mic flash earlier. Did you want to chip in, or it was in agreement?
Yes, I was just agreeing with Mimi.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, great. So to wrap up, let's encourage people for encouragement for those in the 20s coming up to the 30s, those in the 30s going through it. Can we just talk about a few opportunities that there are, and also just some words of encouragement by way of a conclusion? For anyone who's joined us, we've been discussing the conquering the challenges of our 30s. It's a recorded session, so it'll be available on YouTube and a podcast in your palm soon. And we have a lot of issues have come up, so don't worry, you can play back and you wouldn't miss it. So at this point, we want to encourage ourselves and look on the bright side. So let's see, who would like to go first? Without picking anyone, flash your mic and let's see who's ready to give us some words of encouragement for starters. Okay, wonderful, Paulina. If push came to shove, I was going to pick Paulina too, so that's good.
Please, I have to make sure the baby goes to bed. That's why I'm speaking first. Not because I have something bad to say, but the baby needs to sleep, so I want to
Okay.
finish and then be able to go and put him to bed. So I think that for me, the most important thing is planning. If you are in your 20s, it's important to plan. if you put a lot of things right in your 20s, and by that I said it earlier, I don't mean that you necessarily need to have a lot of money or have figured out everything that you want to do, but at least get some habits right, you know. So if it's about savings, if it's about investment, learn those principles in your 20s, when you probably do not have the kind of job that you want, the kind of life that you want, the husband or the wife that you want. You may not necessarily have all of those things lined up, but learn the most important principles to take into your 30s. Because, like we have consistently said, it gets real. In your 30s, everything gets real. Like, it's the life, Ankasa, that you are living. So, if you have a good foundation, then it becomes easier to build on it. And by good foundation, all I'm saying is get the right principles, learn all that you need to learn in your 20s, so that by the time you get into your 30s, you have laid a good foundation. Again, one of the things I've been thinking about this whole week, I think after our conversation last week, is that set goals for the future, but live in the moment also. We need to learn to live in the moment rather than think about the future. And I think David says this every time that we have a conversation. Like, you need to learn to live in the moment as well. So do not be afraid of the future. It will take care of itself. One. But also you need to plan for it. So it will take care of itself, but there are some things that you can do for it to take care of itself in a better way. So make all the plans that you can, do all the things that are in your power to do to ensure that you can have a better time in your 30s. Also, forget what society has to say. Live on your own terms. This is my personal um, principle that I work with, that there will always be somebody who has something more than you, who does something better than you, who is at a certain place that is better than where you think you are. But there's also somebody worse off than you. And you need to have that balance to understand that life is a process. You don't wake up one day and get to where somebody is. You have no idea what the journey was for them. So live life on your own terms. As long as whatever you are doing does not conflict with your faith and your conscience, please go all out. Enjoy your life. Don't be forced into marrying. Don't be forced into buying a car just because of peer pressure, going to debt for things that are not necessary. Live life on your own terms so that by the time you get into your 30s, your path is set. I said at the beginning, I really settled like in my 30s. And by settled, I don't mean just marriage, but I settled in a lot of areas in my life. I remember then the scripture that I was working with was Rehoboth. So the Lord has made room for us and we shall flourish in the land. That kind of thing. Because I did a lot of work previously, which meant that in my 30s I could settle and do a lot of the things I'd set for myself to do. That said, everything may not necessarily fall in place the way you want. Please don't beat yourself up if things are not as you wished it was, or prayed it will be, or planned for it to be. Life is in stages. There's an account proverb that says that a baby bewa neso. You don't necessarily have to be like every one of your mates in your 20s or your 30s, but you should live your authentic self in those years. My name is Pauline and I'm done talking. If something comes up again, I may come back. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Live your authentic self. I think it's surprising how often we keep hearing that Don't let society influence you. Live your own life. But you engage with people more and more, and you realize that it's just a sickness that's just refusing to go away, right? But anyway, we give that some more thought. I'll be inviting some people from the audience to speak. So if there's anything you'd like to say on the topic before we close, I strongly encourage you to raise your hand. There's a hand up, but Kofi, just hold on a second. Let's hear Mimi's words of encouragement and closing, and then we will come to you before we go to David. So Mimi.
Yeah, thanks, Paulina, for that. I mean, I can't emphasize enough. Contentment is just so important. Contentment, contentment, contentment. You can have the biggest house, the biggest car, the most pretty wife, the nicest kids, but still be looking at somebody else's blessing and never be happy. Wherever you find yourself, look at what you have and be joyful about it. Be happy about it. Yes, we can plan for tomorrow. Yes, we can hope for tomorrow. But as Paulina said, live in today and find joy in it. I can't overemphasize the importance of peace of mind. It is too important. And what I've come to realize is that sometimes we lose our peace because we are focused on the wrong things. We lose our peace because we are focused on the wrong thing. So as you sit down and you are unhappy, you need to ask yourself, why are you unhappy? What are you focusing on? And it's something that I say time again, or I've said on various platforms here in Clubhouse. It's something that this year I really struggled with because I was just focused on the wrong things. But once I took my eyes off the wrong things, and for me, I'm a spiritual person, but decided to focus on God and His calling on my life. Trust me, my money hasn't increased. I haven't gotten a new car, no new house, no, nothing special. But I just find joy. Joy in today, and joy knowing that I'm working towards a better tomorrow. So I think that peace of mind is very important. Let's stop looking at what people have, what people wear, what people is not going to do anything for you but to steal your joy. That said, I think that in your 20s and even in your 30s, you need to do a lot of reflection. Sometimes the reason why we get caught up in this whole comparison thing, this whole, I want to be like this person, is because we've not sat down to reflect on our lives and to ask ourselves the hard questions. Who am I and why am I here on earth? What am I good at? What excites me? What makes me feel fulfilled? Once you answer these questions and you know what your calling is, you become less interested in what other people, have to do. And I'll use myself as an example. In my 20s, I mean, I was working as a salesperson and we were in groups of two. We're supposed to be a team. And the promotion time came, and my colleague, Eric, he normally comes to this room. We're a team, and he was promoted and I wasn't. And I just couldn't get it. Why should he be promoted and why shouldn't I be promoted? And so how did I take that? It became very, negative energy. And the plan was, how do I, you know, overdo him, or whatever he's doing, how can I even do better? So we will go to a place to do a presentation, whereas we are supposed to be a team. It's more of a fight, you know and just looking back, that was a waste of time. After all that foolishness, I still didn't get the promotion because I missed it. Once I began to find myself and find my calling, I realized that I just shined there without trying too hard. I just shine there. So I just want one thing that's important, that we ask ourselves, we reflect on our lives and ask ourselves the hard questions. Sometimes it means that on your birthday, shutting everybody off, going to sit in some mountain somewhere, Airbnb, some hotel somewhere, and just thinking through your life. What is it that you want out of life? Once you have that answer, look, the earth can be like, the pressures will come. But you would always have a reason why you are continuing on the path that you are continuing, because continuing on, because you sold yourself that idea and you are living in it. Like, it has taken over you. And I think it's very, 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 very important. A lot of us Ghanaians don't get to do that. A lot of us, come out of school, we don't really know what we want to do. We did psychology, and most of the time that puts us in a box. Okay, do I need to become a psychologist? Do I need to do this? I did banking and finance. Do I need to work in the bank? And we lose, we don't live in our purpose, because we don't ask hard questions. So ask yourself that hard question. Ask yourself that hard question. Once you have the answer, it's very important to focus. Focus. Very important to focus. And then invest. You see, a lot of us tend to think that, oh, I'm 30. I mean, there's more time. I thought that I'm going to be, I don't even want to mention my name, my age, because it's making me scared. 40 is just lurking around the corner, and I just turned 30. So one thing we have as young people, as people who are in our 30s, is the value of time. Let's take advantage of it. Also, it's important to invest in you. As David said, invest in knowing yourself, invest in getting better, invest in getting better spiritually, emotionally, socially, in every aspect of your life, financially. Invest in getting better. Once you are better, you pour out positivity. Everybody that comes around you is blessed. But when you are empty, you are even drawing the little energy that is left in the room. So please invest in yourself, not just reading books, being under people. I think it's important. Sometimes, we are in a hurry to become manager, to become this. Sometimes you have to be humble and sit under people and serve, and grow your foundation and let your roots go deeper. And it's in that when your tree starts going up, you realize it's just going up and it's not falling down, because your foundation is strong. So invest in yourself. Get a mentor if you have to. Read books if you have. Some of us, we because of foolishness, we didn't start reading early, but we've learned sense. Read books, get to know people, expand your network. Don't be doing yourself, I'm an introvert, like some of us did when we were younger. Just do what you need to do to be a better person, and know that it's not just for you, but if you refuse to live in your purpose, the world or certain people that would have been blessed by what you had to do would not be blessed by it. Focus on your God-given purpose, and please pray. I don't know if you're spiritual, I don't know if you're not, but if you're spiritual, pray like you are crazy, because it does something to you. The word of God says that faith comes by hearing, and hearing the word of God. What are you listening to? What are you seeing? It's taking control of your mind, and it's probably one of the reasons why you are unhappy. As you pray, as you read the word, as you read, good stuff, you end up becoming what you are reading. And it's very, very important. Me, I didn't used to believe in all these things. My boss used to tell me, I thought that Charlie Casa too much, but as I grew, I've realized that it's so, so important. So for me, if you are in your 20s getting towards your 30s, or you are even in your 30s, I would advise you to invest in yourself, get to know yourself, focus on it, forget about everybody else. You may be hustling one day, but tomorrow your story will definitely encourage somebody else. So that's my little word. Thank you. I'm done speaking.
And let the people of the Lord say amen. Amen.
Amen.
Wonderful. I could feel that Mimi was touched. I've had a couple of engagements with Mimi this weekend. Something is going on. I can feel the anointing, because this week the kind of gems Mimi has been dropping. Yesterday's room, today, Charlie, pure wisdom. Thank you for gracing us and not letting your children disturb too much, so that you can have the peace of mind to engage with us and share these practical lessons with us. Thank you so much, Mimi. Okay, great. So well, Papano is on the call, but yeah, I had said Kofi would come, then we would hear from Sewa. So we are wrapping up. So if you could just in a few moments, just share your thoughts, or if it's a question, please do, Kofi, and then we'll go to Sewa.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope I'm okay. You can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I'm Kofi. I am in Western Region, Takrady to be precise. I came in late, but I have few questions I want to ask. We are looking at the topic is conquering the challenges of your 30s. I have three questions. To me personally, for some weeks now, I've been pondering over this. I feel like a lot of the youth, including myself, are living in a depressed moment. As what Mimi said earlier on, we are more centered on what we want to achieve in a shorter space. Like we are eager to gain certain things in a rush. And the society also we find ourselves in also put pressure on us. For example, if you are a young graduate who comes out of school and you get employed into a company, instantly society sees you to be a particular person in which sometimes you personally know that your salary and what you are getting out of the job doesn't live up to the standard that society expects you to live. So my question is, as a young individual in your mid-20s or getting to your early 30s, how do you overcome this distraction and challenges? That to me, it causes a lot of depression for the young ones, including myself. How do I overcome these societal challenges or perception that society gives to us when you enter into a certain occupation? For instance, I'm working in a bank, a particular bank.
Kofi, hi, sorry, if I just to make sure, I think I got your question. So your question is how to overcome these distractions to avoid the depression, right?
Yes, please.
Wonderful. Okay. How about Mimi, Paulina. So let's see. Let's hear from Paulina from there. So Paulina, okay, or either Paulina or Mimi, one of you, be thinking about this. Let's take Kofi's second question, and then we would answer at least two questions. Then we'll hear from Sewa, just for the sake of time, so that we don't go too long. Kofi, is that okay?
So I think it's okay. I think it's not even a question. It's add up to what I said earlier on. So I'm working in the banking sector, and then for some time I decided not to let friends and colleagues or people I know get to know where I'm working. But at a point they get to know. Immediately they got to know about it. People started seeking financial support for me as if instantly as I entered into that occupation, everything is comfortable with me. So it links up to what I was asking earlier on. How do you overcome this societal perception that in a way gives a lot of responsibility to you as a young person in which you can't even live up to that expectation? How do you overcome it? That is my question.
Okay. So you know what? I had earlier said that either Paulina or Mimi should take this, but you know, if you don't mind, I'd like to take this. Let me steal the thunder from Paulina and Mimi. Paulina is putting the baby to bed, and the anointing on Mimi is a lot. Okay, so I would like to answer this mainly because I'm still not yet in my 30s, still quite young, and I think I could say that I don't let these things bother me, and I could share practically how it's worked out for me, and it's well before even before 20s. I didn't let these things worry me. Why? It takes you just need to know how to say no. Saying no is not necessarily saying no to somebody. Sometimes you have to say no to yourself. I have a goal of retiring at 30. And I'm 28, but I still have that goal. It's a very big, hairy, audacious goal. But it's just to motivate me, but I'm still realistic about it. I would love to drive a Rolls Royce right now. I would love to drive a Rolls Royce right now. If it comes and I can afford it and I can maintain it, I'll take it. But I'm still realistic. You know, is that keeping your dreams and your expectations alongside their reality would make you realize that, you know what, you can't go and come and kill yourself. It's just not possible. Some of these things take practice. And I believe in small victories when it comes to mindset change and resolve. And some people will say, oh, you are very confident. You easily say no to people. You are strong-willed and all that. See, when we are young and I was doing those things, they said I didn't respect. I'm just a stubborn person. I'm difficult. It's okay, call me that. When a Ghanaian person, pardon my French or pardon my generalization, but when a Ghanaian tells me that I don't respect and I ask the reason, and it's just because I wouldn't let them have their way without them explaining something to me properly, I cannot be bothered. I even take it as a badge of honor. There are certain things that in our society, people are made to go along with and just go do what people say. Yeah, your parents said you should do this, so you should do it. Your uncle said you must do this, so by force you have to do this. If you're a young person, and I'm saying this younger because under 20, under 30s, right? If you're a young person, they say you don't respect if you want to go your own way, you want to have life your own way. Like who else life should I be living? Mine. You start as stubbornness. You get comfortable with being tagged as stubbornness when not that you're a thief and you're just robbing banks or robbing people and then saying you're comfortable with it. No. But you know that what you are doing is right. Sometimes deep down we know what's right. Sometimes deep down we know we have consciences, unless it's been totally eroded, which chances are it's not. It's about being getting comfortable with those uncomfortable feelings. And it starts one step at a time. Just say no to someone. You see a nice shoe you want to buy, just say no. Something small, say no to the small things. You start building the habit. You are having a conversation with somebody, the conversation doesn't want to go, it's not going the way you want. The person just wants to drag you into the mud and have an uncomfortable, a bad conversation, not a well thought through factual conversation. Okay, I hear you. You walk away from that kind of thing. No, those building maturity, small steps at a time, so that by the time it gets to a point where, someone will say that, you are there talking, you are there freeing your mind to the CEO. You can do it. If you have a problem, you can get up and go to the CEO. It's because when I was a teenager, I was arguing with my mother. They were telling me I was not respecting. Yeah, but those were the battlegrounds that you need to start with. You come up with factual. It's not raise your voice. You come up, okay, this and this is the reason why this and this should be like this. It's not 1 + 1 is not adding up to 2. Can we have a conversation? Normal Ghanaian behavior will say, nah, this is how it's supposed to be. You question those things. And if someone will engage with you, well, guess what? If you convince me, I'll do it. I'll agree with you. Make me. It sounds stubborn. And yes, I may be coming from an extreme point of view, but if you really, really want to be strong, these are the ways to go about it. You'll be tagged as stubborn. You'll be tagged as wrong. But guess what? It will pay off and you will have that peace of mind. I will see people balling hard. Me that I like going clubbing. I see people clubbing big. When you see me in the nice posh clubs, I'm probably sitting in a group of at least 8 people. 5 of them are boys, and we are going to split that bill, and it will be as if I just went to a normal place on my own. I don't mind. The person, when medical entered with his squad, and we know that he's the one going to pay for all those things. I don't mind. I'm not watching those people. You get what I'm saying? So when you have that strength of will, but it starts with taking the time to win small battles. Small battles build your confidence, and you get there. That's my answer to you on how to avoid those distractions. David, you want to add on this? Another strong-willed person?
Yes, I just wanted to say something very quick to my brother who asked the question, and it's this: don't let society pressure you into living up to society's perception of who you are. Okay, if the job that you're doing, listen, the fact that you work at the bank doesn't mean the money in the bank is yours. No, it's not yours. So if society is making you feel like, oh, just because you work at the bank, now all of a sudden you're a millionaire and you should be able to afford XYZ, let them know, listen, I work at the bank, but I had to start somewhere. The money in the bank is not mine. Okay? And then, listen, the pressure there, it will come. But you need to be strong in trying to let it not affect you. When all these hands are looking at you and you feel the need to help them out, make sure you're helping yourself out first. You're paying yourself, meaning you're saving something to the side. Because if you help all these people out and Fast forward 10 years later, you haven't been able to make something of yourself. I guess what? Is these same people who are going to say, oh, Akwawi, man, or your bank, he couldn't make anything of himself. So, in society's pressure there, it will be there. Let them know. It's kind of bank or no. I work there, but I media. So until let's try not to live up to people's expectations of what we should be doing or what we are. The journey is yours. You run it at your own pace. In life, it's not a 100-meter dash. It's a long journey. No, just do it how you see fit, and don't let anybody else who financing, is not financing those things tell you how it should be. Thank you.
Medasi, Papa, Medasi. Paulina, you also wanted to chip in. Then I think Mimi also wants to chip in.
You see, Kofi, this is the trouble we have in Ghana. It's the reason why corruption doesn't end. Politicians get into power and we expect that their lifestyles will change all of a sudden, when really their salaries do not match up to the kind of lifestyle they are living. If you let society pressure you, Charlie Wumbobra. So do not let anybody force you to do anything that you do not want to do. Yesterday in the spaces conversation, Mimi and Elikem said something. So rather than have money at your disposal, please invest it. When the person comes and you do not have liquid, like you're not liquid, you do not have cash that you can even go and withdraw from the bank for them, and you tell them you really do not have it, you won't feel guilty about it. You get what I mean? So please don't let society pressure you. This is one of the things I said. And last week I mentioned I'm married in my mid-30s. There was a lot of pressure, everybody asking, so when are you getting married? And I was seemingly successful, a successful young lecturer, doing what I love, enjoying my life, getting international gigs and everything. People were asking me, when will you get married? When will you do this? The questions will always come. Ask Mimi, she has 2 children. Still, they ask, when will she have the girl? So society will always pressure you. You have to develop toughness of mind to be able to deal with the pressures that come, and to understand that if we are to respond to everything that society throws at us, Charlie, one day we do typical train say, I'm an also. Still, any society day. So, Charlie, live your life to the best of your ability. You work in a bank, the money is not for you. It is other people's money you are looking after. For your own money, save and invest. Put it in instruments that does not allow you to easily pull out for other people, so that when they ask you and you say, I do not have, you are genuine about it. It's not as though you are lying, and then you can sleep well at night. So you don't think that you are telling a lie. Thank you.
Amazing, Charlie. It's very real. Kofi, I hope you are listening. Let's hear one more from you.
I would want to say, okay,
Okay. So I mean, what Paulina said is spot on. I mean, this is society. They never get satisfied. That's the reality. So once you have that at the back of your mind, I think that settles it. Because I always make this, say this thing, but it's like having a flashy wedding, right? You are having a flashy wedding to show society that you've arrived. You think you've done it all till someone comes to tell you the jollof was mint, and you'll be surprised at all sorts of comments you will get from your wedding. So for me, I'll say that what is important to you, that's why there's a need for you to have a plan. All these things happen because we've not sat down to think about what is important to you. So wherever the wind blows, you are going. In the banking industry, because I worked in 3 banks for very short periods, my longest being national service, I have I sort of can picture the kind of pressure you'll be going through, even if it's not from those outside the bank, those within the banks. There's an impression that there's money. Once you're in a bank, you are rich. So you people are living large, people are living big. And you realize that by the time they retire, you worked in so and bank, but you don't have nothing. You don't have anything. So I think it's very, very important. I think it's very important to sit down and think about your life. Where do you want to be? You are 60, you are 70, you are 80. What kind of story do you want to be told? Once you have a picture of that in mind, look, and you are intentional about it, people will come. Me, I've been called Chisel. In fact, my teammate is here. Ask him. I've been called Chisel. I've been called this. I've been called that. But I know what I'm working towards. It doesn't mean that the pressures don't come. Sometimes I feel tempted. Sometimes I even yield to the temptation. I slap myself back and then go back to my plan. I always say that if you also are a giver, don't be, don't let your plan be too tight. Have an allocation in your budget for planning, for giving. But once it's done, it is done. You need to be intentional about it. You need to say no, because as you are giving out, as you are overspending, you are robbing yourself and generations that are to come of the benefits of the decisions, the good decisions that you should have taken. And there are going to be bigger requests, more important requests that you wouldn't have money for because you yielded to some of these things. So please sit down and have a plan and know that the pressure will come. It may even double up. But once you have a plan and you are focused, you will stick to it.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you all for the words of encouragement, the strategies that Kofi can use. Kofi and everyone else who's feeling the pressure, so that we don't break our necks. Thank you so much. Kofi, are you satisfied with the answer?
I would first want to say thank you so much. I think I have learned something today here. And I would want to assure you, I will come back again and learn more, and also attest to the fact that I have drawn my plan, especially with what Mimi said. I'm a giver, I'm someone who loves giving. And initially, I think I've learned a lot today because I'm someone that when I'm saying no to somebody, I feel like I'm hurting the person so much because the person trusted me. That's why he or she came to me. But I've realized that if I don't get rid of that mentality, it's going to worry me because it's going to make me go beyond what I can do for people. And people would always not be satisfied with whatever you do for them. So I've learned two things today: to always stick to my plan and to always know that no matter what I do, society or people will not be satisfied. So I shouldn't try going extremely overboard to satisfy people. I'm very grateful for the advice and for the talk. I've learned a lot today. Thank you so much to all of you.
Thank you too, Kofi. Thank you so much. We see you are new on Clubhouse, so I hope you'll be having more of such engagements. Feel free to join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. for more of this. And thank you for sharing your perspective, asking this question so that everyone else could learn. So we'll be hearing from Sewa soon. But David, I see your mic is on. David, you want to say something?
I was just gonna say Kofi, or your guy. That's all. I was gonna appreciate Kofi for appreciating us.
Yeah, Charlie.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, Kofi. Let's see your guy. Okay, Sewa, thanks for your patience waiting for your turn. Please, let's hear from you. Welcome. Oh, and I must say, it's a recorded session, so just be reminded.
No problem. Okay. All right. So I think mine is a question, but just to add to Kofi, two practical things you can do. I at the age of 25 got a really good job, was riding driving a BMW Tier Rover. I was traveling all around the world and stuff like that. Practical things. People will think you have a lot of money. Sometimes these are just company tools for you to work. Curate your social media. It's not everybody that needs to have access to your social media. For me, I don't post those things on my social media. My social media is very private. Instagram, I have to know you and make sure you're a kindred spirit before I allow you to be someone who can see the things I post. And then as much as possible, let's just just don't show off. There are people who travel for work and have all these experience, and that's good. If you want to share with your friends, that's okay. But make sure you curate what is you're putting out there and the people who get to see it. And then secondly, make sure that you surround yourself with the right people who have the same mindset. And then when you forget yourself, right, or when you are troubled, or when you feel a bit shaky in what you want to do, those are the people who will help you to be resolute in what you have decided to do. So those are the two practical things that has helped me. The question I want to ask is that, I mean, for those who are older or ahead in the game, most of the time we talk about know yourself, find yourself. And for me, it's very challenging for me because as at now, there are things in my 20s that I thought I knew about myself. And I get into my 30s and I realize I don't think that is who I am. So I don't know whether you evolve or whether you discover yourself or whether I'm changing in the process. So do we really get to a point where we really know who we are? Because I have made certain decisions based on who I thought I knew myself to be. And then I get in and I'm like, I'm not too sure about this. So I'm just wondering, how do you control these factors? Like how do you say that, I don't know if my question is even, these are the thoughts in my mind, how do you say you know yourself, or find yourself? You need to find yourself. But it seems to me like I'm always playing catch up. I get to a different environment. I thought I knew myself, and I'm like, I guess I'm not that patient. I guess I don't have that much of leadership skills. Different things really. So when we say find ourselves, how can you measure that this is you, and these are things that you can put your hands on to even make decisions for yourself in the future? So that's my question to Paulina and Mimi, all these other people on the platform. Thank you.
Wonderful. Very good question. Very, very practical question. It's when you break it down from a motivational speaker coming to tell you, know yourself, to someone and say, okay, master, let's sit down. Let's figure this shit out. Pardon my friend. Let's figure this thing out. How do I know myself? I like this question. To our speakers, if I may, let me just appoint just one person to resolve this for us. Paulina, can you do that for us?
Sure. Okay, so I agree with Sewa that we discover a new side of ourselves every time as we grow. But there's a concept called knowing your true north, NORTH. So that is like what grounds you, you know. Now, when you have found out what grounds you, a lot of things will be thrown at you, but you will know where you are headed, what grounds you, and like I tell my students, what makes you sleep well at night, so that whatever decision you are making at any point in time is based on what grounds you, what your true north is. One of the books that has been very helpful for me when it comes to knowing myself is Rick Warren's Purpose Driven Life. So in that book, Rick Warren talks about like Mimi has been talking about knowing your purpose, what you're on earth here for, what on earth you are here for. That sounds like a tautology, but that's it. That's the way he puts it. So what on earth am I here for? And when you find out what your mission is, then things may change as in who you are, because we are also work in progress. You get it? So the you before you had children will be different from the you when you have children. But when you know what you're on earth for, then a lot of things will align. So Sewa, this is a big conversation that we can have the whole day. But I would ask that if you have not read Rick Warren's Purpose Driven Life, let's start
I've
from
read
there.
it
You have read it.
back to back, yes.
Please
Please
say
go
that
again
again.
with a new fresh eyes.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you. I think that let me just refine it a bit. So it's
Okay.
about finding your purpose. So I think that for me, what I'm struggling with is that, so for example, even in your career, right? You know how even when it comes to marriage, they say find yourself, like know yourself before maybe you marry somebody. And then you get into the marriage and then you discover a new, like, it's like, I guess that's not me. Or you make some, choices or decisions about things because based on who you know yourself to be. Let me give an example. I really thought that I love to travel, and I thought I did. And I relocated to a whole different country to for a new job. And then I realized that I don't think I am as adventurous as I thought I was. I don't know whether it's because I was in my 30s or maybe my 20s had a lot of an energy. So those were the things I was thinking about. So I'm just trying to say that sometimes when we use that statement, and we really don't know what we mean by that, when they say find your, unless we are saying finding yourself simply means find your true north, like you said, just your purpose. Maybe my purpose is maybe you are, I don't know, something, you are, some people are both maybe help people to be, leaders, to be whatever, everybody have what they have been called to do. If that is what we are saying, know yourself in that sense, then I guess I understand where you're coming from. And when you know your true north, all the other things are not necessarily the pivotal things. They all sort of
Exactly.
fall into place. Okay, then I get where I get
Yeah.
you.
So
All right.
then, as work in progress, you will take detours, but you know exactly where you are going, and so the detours will not really put you off course because say you think you are adventurous, so you travel, but then you get into that country and then you realize that no, this is not what I want to do. And because you know who you are, so you get back to the plan or the course that you know you should be on. So by saying know yourself, for me, when I say know yourself, that is what I mean. Know what you're on earth for, like what your mission here on earth is. Then everything else will fall in place because really you are work in progress. So you will never be like the Bible says. If you're not a Christian here, forgive me, but I am a Christian, so that's what I work with. Like the Bible says, we all with veiled faces are every day, like we are being revealed. I don't know if I got the scripture right, but we are being revealed. Like there's some revelation that is going on about who we are and what we are in Christ, for example. So work in progress. So you see a new part of yourself every day. It does not mean that you necessarily do not know yourself, but as you grow, things will change. It does not mean that the knowledge you had of yourself yesterday is wrong. No, it is not. Forgive me. Let me end here so this boy can sleep. Thank you.
House owner really wants to sleep. So yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, Paulina, for that explanation and guidance. So thank you too for bringing up this question. It's brought out some strategies and things to think about. So thank you so much. So we will take the last person to speak, and then we'll let Papano close us. Daniel, you have the floor. Remember, it's a recorded session. So as you speak, it means I have your permission to continue. Please go ahead.
Actually, I just wanted to say thank you for all the advice and the, what do I call it, wisdom. Rick Warren's book is actually pretty good. I start reading it and I never finish, but because of you, Paulina, I'll find it from my book box and start again.
Please, Daniel, read it. It's for me and the Bible. Okay, apart from the Bible, Rick Warren's book, Purpose Driven Life, and then Steve Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. They are the books that have transformed my life, like apart from the
Wonderful. Okay, great. Thank you for thanking us. And we look forward to hearing your feedback after reading those books. You would have more to share with us. Okay, Papa, any closing words? Give us the benediction, and then I'll do the announcements. And then
Masa, why you put me on the spot like that?
say yes,
Everything
at the end of the
that
day,
I had to
penny
say,
Jariana is just Jarina.
Masa Jai,
You
I'm
know,
not 100 though. That was it. Anything that I had to say, somebody has already said it, and I don't want to keep repeating stuff. But you know, one of my very good friends, every time you see him and you ask him how are you doing today, his answer is always better than some, worse than some. You know, it's okay to make mistakes, as long as you get yourself back on track. And in life, we're all running different races, so try not to compare um, somebody else's situation to yours. That's about all I want to add to it. Thank you all for coming. It's been awesome having these conversations. Erica,
Thank you,
please take it
David.
away.
Thank you, David, so much. So we heard from our senior man. Run your race. Run your own race. All right. So just a reminder. Today we've been discussing conquering the challenges of your 30s. It's last week we had the conversation about the challenges of the 20s. Looked at strategies to overcome them. This week it's been the 30s, looking to overcome them. Next week is going to be the 40s. The challenges of our 40s and how to overcome them. Some of us it may seem like it's far away, but don't worry. Time flies, right? Let's get prepared. Let's hear from our elders who are there and who've been there, hear how we can plan ahead and make sure that the challenges will not weigh as much on us. And then we can also live good quality lives and when we get there. So this has been a recorded session. It would be uploaded on YouTube along with last week's session and also coming to a podcast near you. So please follow Money Convos on Clubhouse, follow the speakers, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, very soon Facebook. That will come soon. So yeah, please follow us, engage with us. Let's have these conversations. I understand that some people won't stick around the full time. I think today, because it's been very engaging, we tried to do an hour and a half, but we've done about an hour and 45 minutes. So I think it's because it's been very engaging and very relevant. And we've heard from other people beyond our speakers. So it's good to have these engagements. Thanks to everyone, Kofi, Daniel, Sewa, Yaya earlier on, and there was one more person I'm missing. Thank you all for engaging with us, and I hope to catch you here again, same time next week, 7 p.m. on Clubhouse. Catch you soon. Do have a good weekend and stay blessed and keep working towards creating wealth and your financial freedom. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to us. I hope you learned a thing or two and start practicing. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. Do tell a friend about Money Convos so we all become wealthy together. Talk to you soon. Bye.